Vayigash of Yehudah. It's interesting, the term Yehudah approached him. Say, V'amalo Yehudah. He's coming to defend himself. What is the term? He approached him, or he came upon him. It has a certain connotation that there's a certain level of aggressiveness in Yehudah's behavior. That's Vayigash. He approached him, he came upon him. He just didn't speak. Vayomer, Bi Adoni. And he said, Bi Adoni. It should be the will of my master. Please allow you speak with humility, your servant to speak words that should enter into your ears, meaning you should be attentive to what I say. And you should not be angered with your servant, meaning the way I speak, you may feel maybe with a disrespect. So therefore, don't become upset, because he's trying to explain the seriousness of the moment. So if he speaks with a certain tone or he says certain things which may be considered disrespectful, he should not become upset. So surface-wise means because I revere you as I revere the Pharaoh. So therefore, if anything seems to be not with the sensitivity that you would expect, don't be upset with me. Don't be angered with me. So take a look in Rashi. Be attentive that you should listen to it, that you should value what I say. If he already is predicating his word that you should not become upset or angered with me, that he spoke very sternly, very directly, with a certain degree of force, which is not acceptable when you speak to a monarch. So to couch that and to address that issue, he says, although it may come across as that, but I value no less than I value the king. That is a simple understanding of the pasuk. However, Medrasho, Sofcha Lilkos Olai B'Tzaras, as Yosef himself was beautiful, Binyamin, even though the Torah doesn't speak about his beauty, but being the son of Leah, he was a beautiful, beautiful person. And it was not uncommon that when a person of power would see someone of this kind of physical form, they would actually take him as a mate, to sexually abuse that person, to sodomize the person. So he says, you realize, Sofcha Lilkos Olubitzari. Ultimately, you're going to be smitten with what? With leprosy. Poshaloka Paro Idei Ziknosi. Sorosh Alayla Achashikva. We find that when Avram had gone to Egypt and he had taken Sari Menu, which is he's saying this is the grandmother of this person, when he wanted to approach her, Sarah said, smite to the angel, and he was smitten. Do you realize if you even approach this child, you're going to be smitten with leprosy, as in ancient Egypt, the monarch, the pharaoh, was smitten with leprosy. Davar acher, that's ki chamocha kefaro. Do you think anything less is going to happen to you than power? You're mistaken. So even though the words seem to be respectful, I revere you like the king, but also the undercurrent of those words he was communicating, you realize you're going to pay the price. Davar acher, ma paro goes just as Paro decrees and he doesn't fulfill his decree, doesn't keep his word. You're no different than him, meaning you're a two-faced person. Originally, you asked that our brother should be brought to you to prove that we're not spies. I just want to allow my eye to come upon him to prove, it should be proven that you're honest, that you're all the sons of one father, and you're not spies. And he's going to show exactly how this whole thing was contrived, and the whole thing's a setup. Ki chamocha kefaro. You're no different than the paro. What is that? Also, this is being communicated simultaneously. If you're going to anger me, Yehudah says to Yosef, Arog osov es adonecha. I will kill you and kill your master. That's what I'll do. You realize, Yehudah was speaking because he understood what was at stake. We normally say, in Somchal, and this, Yehudah and his brothers, if you look in the Midrash, they said, if they would have withheld Binyamin, they would have destroyed Egypt. How could 10 people destroy Egypt? You go against thousands and thousands of people. A country that has an army in place, just number-wise, besides being trained as an army, and Egypt was the height of civilization. Shimon and Levi destroyed the community. They're able to resort because of what they represent. Why is Yehudah being so forceful there? What's at stake? What's at stake here is Yaakov. Just as Avram went to battle against the four mightiest kings to save Lot, because he was committed to it, and God allowed supernatural events to take place to bring about that victory, Yehudah was sure, even though it was beyond his physical strength, in the honor of Yaakov, for the sake of his father, Hashem will allow them, if they have to bring Binyamin back to Yaakov, Hashem will allow that to take place. And whatever God has to do to make that happen, it's going to happen. Whether Yosef's heart will be softened or they have to destroy Egypt. It's one or the other. And he's telling him up front, factually, and he explains to him, because since the soul of this child is entwined, enmeshed in his father's, there's no way we're going to allow this to be, that he should be denied to his father. Therefore, Yehudah is speaking with a confidence, with a certainty, with an aggressiveness, and he's communicating this to what? To this viceroy, who he doesn't know who he is. And now he goes to explain his position, why the whole thing was contrived, and how this person is dishonest, and the whole thing was a ploy. Adoni Sha'al. Now, over here, the commentators explain that this back and forth between Yosef and Yehudah was in a public setting. And Yehudah literally addressed Yosef publicly. Hey, Yosef puts himself out to be this benevolent monarch. He's concerned for the people, this and that. And here he's depicting him, and he's showing clearly, irrefutably proof, the man is cruel, the man is heartless, the man is two-faced, went back on his word. And because it was done publicly, Yosef had no choice but to call his brothers aside and share with him, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. Because his whole credibility as he presented himself, as he positioned Egypt, would have been undermined. Adoni Shoal, my master asked Avod of Lemar, his servant saying, you asked, do you have a father or a brother? But no Adoni, and we were honest. Yeshlanu of Zokin. And we answered our master, we have an elderly father, Vielut Zukunim, Koton. And a child was born to him in his old age, who's the youngest, V'ochiv Meis. Now, Yehudah said something which was not true, and his brother died. Because they were concerned, Yehudah was concerned, if he'd say his brother's alive, they'd say, bring his brother. And he was left over, the only son who was the son of his mother. Because although they were brothers, that was only through the paternal side, not through the maternal side. And his father loves him. Over here, the Balaturim points out, Zukunim, as is written by Yosef in the Vayeshev, he was Ben Zukunim. The Vav is deleted here. You take a look. You see the Vav? Zukunim is written with a Shuruk. It's not written with the Vav. So again, without the vowels, it could be read Zikanim. He's the child, Zakanim, the elders, meaning as Yaakov had taught all the Torah that he studied in Shem Ve'ever, was to contend with Golus, with exile. This child is special to him because Zakanim, he taught him all that Torah too. He had that special capacity. Therefore, it's Ova Vahevo. Yosef, the brother who died, was also had that same capacity. And this, the youngest, has the same capacity. And his father loves him. V'ochav mes, okay. V'atomel avadecho. And you said to your servants, Horidu Eloi, bring him down to me. Meaning, because Canaan is higher up. Vasima Eni Olav. And you asked, allow my eye to come upon him, just to see, to give credibility to what you're saying, that you're all brothers of the same father, and you're not spies. We said at the time to our master, the youth cannot leave his father, because even if he leaves for a short period of time, even if we return him, that level of detachment is enough to cause his father to die, because he'll be concerned for his safety. Rashi, V'ozav Hisoviv V'mes, Im Yazav Hisoviv, Dogim Onu Shem Yomas B'derech, Sherei Imo B'derech Mesa. This is interesting. We're concerned, we're worried he would die on the way to Egypt, just as his mother, Rachel, died on the way, right? The Torah makes it a point. As they were entering into Eretz Yisrael, Derech Ephrosa, Rachel Imenu passed away. And you find that certain things repeat themselves. That Rachel, especially the setting where she passed away was on the way. Binyamin, representing what she is, would also may repeat itself on the way. That's Baderech. Now, what's interesting, I once mentioned, there's a response from the Chassam Sofer that there's two customs on a yard site. Some people fast on a yard site, other people do not fast. What is the basis to fast on a yard site of a parent? It's the day of the passing of the parent, because since that day is the anniversary of the death of the parent, there's a certain level of auditing of the record of the child of that parent, which actually has relevance to Midas Hadin. So since a person's record may be audited on the day of his parents' passing, so therefore one fasts, because fasting is associated with Shuvah, and as a result of that, the person will be protected. That's the reason why the custom is to fast. The position is people fast on the yard site, because as the parent died on that day, he also may pass away on that day. So the fasting is to create merit for that person. He should not die. So we see something similar. Just as Rachel Imenu passed away Baderech on the way, not in a settled location, identically, Binyamin may pass away on the way. Now let's talk. We had earlier that Yaakov had said the reason why he wanted to send Binyamin because Hasotin Mekatrin B'Shas HaSakona. The Satan prosecutes when a person's in the state of danger. You know, the world cannot exist without Midas HaRachmim, attribute of mercy. But if a person puts himself in a position of danger, we need extra merit. That's what Satan says. Maybe he's not worthy of that extra level of protection. As a result of that, that's an opening to prosecute the record of a person. And that's the expression, Sota and Mekatrim B'Shas HaSakona. That's the reason why when we travel out of a community, we say Tfilas HaDerech, right? The traveler's prayer, because we make the special tefillah was actually legislated by the Ashkenaz Sagdola to address that issue because it's sakana. Person travels, he's a shlich mitzvah. Also, we try to do whatever we can. When a person travels, he should be protected because when you're not in a location which is secure, and there's a certain element of danger, that's a basis for Satan to prosecute the record of a person for that reason. We read in B'mei Madlikim, if you daven Ashkenaz Friday night, it says that a woman the prosecution of a woman when she gives birth is for the three mitzvahs which are personal and unique to the woman. What is that? Hadlokas ner, the lighting of the Shabbos candle, Yom Tov candles, hafroshes challah, tithing the dough, and also the laws of menstruation, family period, which pertains to the woman. So the Gemara explains that when a person is down and out, so to say, is in a precarious situation, and there is a basis to prosecute, the mitzvah din immediately is withdrawn. And that's when the person needs serious assistance. When a woman is giving birth, this is the time. And what is the prosecution? The three mitzvahs which are unique to her, that if in any way she failed or didn't do them as she should have done them, it's a very serious prosecution. When a person is baderech, it's interesting. The Sfardim, we say hagomel, we return only certain situations. You take a sea voyage. This question, when you fly, do you say hagomel? When you come back, discussion. Sfardim, whenever they say tefillah saderech, on the way back, they say hagomel. They travel, even on a land trip. They don't go to the sea, go through a desert. Whenever they say tefillah saderech, you're saying tefillah saderech, the wayfarer's prayer, was there's an element of danger. So if there's danger and you come back secure, you have to thank God. Therefore, you say hagomel when they come back, because again, it's based on this. So therefore, just as Sari Menu, Rocheli Menu, she passed away on the derech, because the derech is a location of sakana, even though most people survive. But since we see that his mother was vulnerable because it was danger, therefore we're concerned that he also may die, because that's the way his mother died. He may have that same vulnerability for that reason. And although they gave every reason why Binyamin should not be taken, because his father has attached him and loves him, and he's that last remnant of that representation of the family, and we're concerned of danger and so on and so forth, what did you say? It fell on deaf ears, all the pleading. You said, if your youngest brother does not come down with you, I never want to see you. I never want to see you again. I mean, it's heartless. Here we're giving every legitimate reason why not. He should not come. Say, it's irrelevant to me. It's irrelevant. So what way to say? Maybe, because maybe the whole thing is a contrived story. It's a made-up story. He's not the youngest. There's no father. Maybe you people are not brothers, because that's why he accused them of being spies, because they originally had come into Egypt through 10 gates, which Yaakov had instructed them they should not go through the same gate, because Yaakov was concerned there would be Ayin Hara. They'd have the evil eye because they looked princely and they had a special appearance. To have 10 such people come through the gate, Yaakov was concerned that they'll be harmed through Ayin Hara. But go sell this to the viceroy of Egypt. So maybe the whole thing's contrived, but yet we'll see, because once he brings him and he proves that all the information was accurate and true, in retrospect, if now you withhold him, it's beyond cruelty. It's beyond being heartless. That's the case that Yehudah is building against Yosef. At this moment, it's not so bad yet, because maybe the whole thing's a made-up story. But when finally they do prove their innocence, that he is the youngest brother, and they're not spies, how all of a sudden you would want to withhold the child, this youngest child, and it was obvious it was a setup. You planted the goblet in his saddlebag. We'll see. And we were sent back to our father. Now this is the problem. Yosef, could you imagine? Yosef hears his father being referred to as his servant. This is the first time. Till now they are the servants of Yosef, of the viceroy. When we ascended to our servant, your servant, our father. That means they're referring to Yaakov as Yosef's servant. And Yosef kept quiet. unacceptable. At that moment, Yosef immediately should have revealed on the Yosef, but he kept quiet and he let it go. And we'll see. Avduch Avi was mentioned 10 times. And for every time Avduch Avi was mentioned, your servant, our father, he had 1 year deducted from his life because of the disrespect that Yosef remaining silent, that his father should be referred to as his servant. Although at that moment he was the viceroy, it doesn't make a difference. You should not be able to tolerate to hear that your father is referred to as your servant under any circumstance.
Rabbi?
Hey, Divri Adoni, 1 second. And we told over the words of our master. Go back and purchase some more grain. So we said to our father, we cannot go down. If our youngest brother is with us for Yoradnu, then we can go down. We cannot go see the presence of this man if our youngest brother is not with us. Just one moment. Again, so Yehudah speaking, your servant, my father, had said to us. So again, Yaakov is referred to as the servant of Yosef. You know that my wife had born 2 children to me. And one had left me. And my understanding is that Torov, he was killed by an animal. And I didn't see him until now. And you're going to take this one from me and an accident. Because again, as we said, traveling is putting him in a state of danger. He's vulnerable to prosecution. And you bring my old age into the grave in a bad way. And now when I came to your servant, my father, again, mentioning Yaakov is the servant of this person, and the youth is not with us, and his soul is bound up in his soul. Therefore, there's no way the level of pain and suffering that our father will experience due to this is not to be imagined. Alan, 1 minute. If Yaakov passed away at the age of 130 in Egypt, Yaakov was meant to live 180 years as his father. So the question why he had those 33 years deducted from his life. Either because, one reason is given is because, why did Rachel pass away before her time? Because she had taken the fetuses from her father to deny him a situation that he should be an idolater. And Yaakov said with confidence, it's impossible. And he says, therefore, any of my family who had taken it, lo yichya, that person should not live. The gematria, the numerical value of yichya is 33. So because she died, because he says, lo yichya, she should not live, which is 33, numerically. Therefore, Yaakov had 33 years taken off his life. This is one midrash. Another midrash says that when Rachel was barren, and she says to Yaakov, give me children, otherwise I'm going to die. If I don't have children, I'm going to die. That's how she was suffering. So Yaakov responded with a certain lack of sensitivity to her. He says, am I in the place of God? It's your issue. It's not my issue. I have children. You don't have children. So the Medrash says, Kach b'dabrim el amikos. Is that the way you speak to a distressed woman? And because of that lack of sensitivity, the way you spoke to Rachel, you're going to have 33 years deducted from your life. That's a Yalkut. So according to the Yalkut, doesn't say why 33. According to Lo Yichya, because she died, he said Lo Yichya. Numerically, Yichya is what? 33. But that he spoke to this woman who's so distressed with this lack of sensitivity, why 33? It's not clear why. But if Yaakov would have lived a full 180 years in Egypt, you realize the exile in Egypt would have been a different exile. Because when did the effect of being in Egypt start affecting the Jewish people? Only after Yaakov passed away, right? That's the next week. Why is Parshas Vayechi Parsha Stuma? It's called the sealed Parsha. So Rashi cites Chazal, the Midrash, because as long as Yaakov was alive, it had the bondage had no relevance to them whatsoever. They were not affected. Only the moment he passed away, that's when it started at a certain subliminal level, it started to affect him. Now, when Yosef passed away, the Orach Chaim Kodesh speaks about it very clearly there. Yosef being the viceroy, as long as Yosef was alive, his brothers, the family was treated like royalty. When Yosef passed away, there was a change immediately. The family was not treated as when Yosef was alive. If Yosef would have lived an additional 10 years, Yosef was the provider. So if Yaakov would have lived 180 years, Yaakov, that means the effect of the shibud, of the bondage, would have been delayed 33 years. The Jews would have left Egypt at a different level. When we left Egypt, we were Mente Shari Tuma. We're at 49th level of spiritual impurity. We were ready to go into the oblivion. His presence being there for another 33 years would have made a difference, tremendous difference. Yosef being in a position of viceroy for another 10 years, it would have made a difference. But because Yosef somehow had remained silent, and he allowed his father to be referred to as his servant, 10 years were deducted from his life. And because Yaakov had said Lo Yichya, which numerically is 33, he had 33 years taken off his life, or the other insensitivity. As all this happening, were different Jewish people. The people that left Egypt were at a lesser level than they would have been, and therefore when they came to Sinai, they received the Torah in that context of where they were at. Otherwise, it would have been a totally different reality. If Yehudah wouldn't have given the okay for Yosef to be sold, Yaakov didn't prophesy for 22 years. If Yaakov would have prophesied for another 22 years, what would have been? He would have been a different dimension of patriarch. His effect would be a different effect. Even if he would have only lived, though he passed away at 147. So why was Yaakov not at that more advanced level? Because he was denied prophecy for 22 years. So if you put all this together, the Jewish people would have been a different Jewish people. Yaakov would have been a different patriarch, even if he lived to 147. And if he would have gone to 180, there's no question. The Jewish people would have been the different people. Because he would have been, his influence would have been different. And if Yosef would have remained viceroy for another 10 years, and the Jewish people would have been maintained at that special level, he would have been a provider, and they would have been protected within the realm of who he was for another 10 years. But you realize, there's nothing coincidental. Things are only meant to happen because God allows it to happen that way. Because ultimately, the end result is Klal Yisrael is supposed to be that at that level when we come to Sinai. Even the Chet Egel, God understood that ultimately they're going to sin with the golden calf. And he understood that the first set of tablets were going to be broken. When he created Adam, God knows everything. He knew he was needing the tree of knowledge. And ultimately, the world would be putrefied. And until there's going to be a Yaakov, until there's going to be a Jewish people, mankind is disenfranchised. And he can't have a relationship with the human being, even if they circumcise themselves, because they represent the evil of the tree of the Eitz Hadas. But again, all this is God's plan, the way things are meant to evolve and manifest themselves. The Gemara tells us in Megillah that the characteristic of Rachel was shtika, was silence. And therefore the stone of Binyamin on the choshen, on the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, is called the Yoshpei stone. Yoshpei, that's the name of the stone. It's a colored stone. So the mentions why it's called the Yoshpei stone. It's a conjunction Yeshpeh. Although Binyamin was aware that his brother was sold, and he was pained by it, consumed with this pain, because as we said, he had 10 children, and every child that was named had relevance to Yosef being not disappearing. He never divulged it to his father. Yesh peh v'lo amar. He had the ability to share it, and he suppressed it, did not share it with his father, because he understood the consequences of saying that. But where it was literally a superhuman feat that he's able to suppress this. Where did he acquire this characteristic? From his mother Rachel, Imenu. And this we shared. The story about when Yaakov worked 7 years, hard years for Rachel, and Yaakov would send gifts to his future bride, his fiancée. Lavan was so devious and evil, he actually took those gifts and sent them to Leah. He says, these are the gifts that are sent from your future husband. So Leah all the years believed that Yaakov was courting her by sending her the gifts. And Rachel was aware of this. Could you imagine? Rachel is aware that her future husband sending her the gifts. He's diverting it and giving the gifts to Leah. And that's why we find later, when Rachel asked for the dudoim, for the mandrake, she says, you want to take away my husband? And now you want the mandrakes? She was unaware. She was unaware that Rachel, that Yaakov was interested in Rachel, not in Leah. She believed when she was under that chuppah, she was the wife meant for Yaakov, because Yaakov courted her all those years. Rachel says to herself, maybe I should go to Yaakov and divulge this to him. The evil that's been perpetrated, you know what she said? What am I going to accomplish? At least now he will marry Leah, and Leah will have children from Yaakov. That'll be the future of the Jewish people. But if I should divulge it, and Yaakov is going to react, you know what Lavan is going to do? You're not marrying either of my daughters. So my sister will not be a matriarch. So what do I have to gain by divulging it? Neither of us will be matriarch. Better I should remain silent, let her be the matriarch, and just keep quiet. That characteristic of suppression of information, to remain silent, that is the midah of Rachel. That's her characteristic. Binyamin, being her son, had that characteristic. Esther Hamalka, who was from Binyamin, it says, Esther ein magedis moladata. Mordechai instructed she should not divulge or reveal her pedigree, and she remained silent. And the Gemara says, where did she get this characteristic from? Esther Hamalka, this characteristic she inherited from her grandmother, from Rachel Imenu. That was that characteristic, to remain silent. Yosef, till the end, never divulged to his father, revealed that his brother sold him to slavery.
Rabbi, I understand that for the good, you want to remain silent for Esther and for the better, for the good. But here, remaining silent, Yosef, Yaakov lost his nevuah for 22 years. He was so upset.
Stop. Two separate things. The reason why Yosef didn't, it's a question. Yosef, if he became viceroy, he should have informed his father immediately. I think Yosef, that's a separate question. And he could have told him the same story. He was kidnapped by who knows, by kidnappers. That's a separate question, what you're asking. The answer is Yosef believed the dreams were a prophecy. Being a prophecy, he had allowed that prophecy to evolve and become fully developed.
So
if he could interrupt the prophecy, 1 second. We're speaking now after fact. After Yaakov comes to Egypt, and he spent 17 years, he never shared with his father that his brother ever sold him. The prophecy was fulfilled. His brother's bowed to him. He's the sustainer. He's the provider, everything. Never. So the question is why? Because he knew how his father would react. It would destroy his brother. He would curse them. Rather than blessing them, and there will be Jewish people, he may curse them. Therefore, Yosef suppressed information never shared this information with his father.
So it sounds
Ever.
like then when a person does teshuva, he should never do anything that he thinks the other person is going to get really upset about because they may
That's
take
not-
it the wrong
no,
way.
no.
What
Separate discussion.
teshuva is
Ernie,
saying, I am sorry
Ernie,
to
the
that
buzzer
person,
just went
and they'll
off. We have to-
understand.
Good question. But I'll explain it tomorrow. We have to take a break now. The buzzer went off.
And
Okay.
Rabbi Buzzer went